Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining us this evening here for SocialFlight Live. I'm Jeff Simon, president of SocialFlight, and we have a really fun show tonight. I'd like to start by just obviously a thank you to everyone who's joining us, but also to explain what we're doing. So SocialFlight Live came about, of course, in the midst of this crisis. I mean, we are all about getting people together at SocialFlight, getting out there and flying and going to new places. And so much of what we do is surrounded by gatherings and the things that are really missing from our lives right now in this crisis. But we looked for this great way that we could get people together in the general aviation community in a virtual way. And that's how we came up with SocialFlight Live. And one of the fun things is that in my job, I get to meet some absolutely wonderful people in general aviation. I mean, just across the whole spectrum, some of which are icons and people that we all know by name, and others that are just regular people that you learn from and the how they got into aviation and the things that they've done. And many of them, like our guest tonight, Mark Rubin of the New England Aircraft Detailing, have a lot to offer us in terms of information during the crisis, and also just helping people get through every day and find some bright spots and a way to keep aviation strong. And so one of the other things that we launched, I'm going to share the next screen here to show you. One of the other things that we just launched that you may have heard of is this program called Takeoffs for Takeout. Now, this came about for a couple of reasons, but one of the biggest ones is how we have seen in all of our communities the economic impact to people that are involved in industries that have to be shut down right now, or that have to be at least at arm's length from customers. And so that especially impacts restaurants and many other businesses. And we came up with this program because for two reasons. First of all, because many of these businesses, FBOs, and restaurants have already adapted to safe practices within the current environment. They have ways that you can pay in advance via credit card or just buy gift certificates. They have ways, even when we looked at our local airport, they are taking payment via credit card for your fueling. You never come within 6 feet of another individual. They wipe the pumps down before, afterwards. There's so many things that have gone in place to help keep people safe, both the people working and those of you who may be visiting, that I just wanted to make sure that we could try to help them. The other side of it, of course, is that in general aviation, and if you may have seen this in the video that I made, we're so important to being able to transport, whether that be supplies or healthcare workers or patients. There's a lot of things going on in general aviation that are very critical during this time. And I think it's very important that we do everything we can to, again, keep everyone going. And airports have been deemed essential businesses by every state that I'm aware of. And that includes the FBOs, repair facilities, and things like that. So we just want to find a way within safe practices, and I cannot emphasize that enough, within safe practices to help keep these businesses going. And I think it also helps the rest of us to continue to maintain aviation in our lives. Now, I also want to say that I am very aware, of course, that every state and every city has different regulations happening right now. Some cities are on very, very strict lockdowns. Others and other states are in different places as far as what people are allowed to do. And so certainly, if it's outside the regulations or what you're able to do in terms of getting out and flying in any way, then I would encourage you to stick with the approach where you look at buying a gift certificate. But I would like just to encourage everyone, as long as they are within those safe practices, to keep in mind that the way that so many of us fly in general aviation in our normal world, if you go back a few months ago only, we often fly alone. And if we don't fly alone, we often fly with family or close people that are already in our social circle, even during lockdown. And so I think that we have a situation where it's okay if the regulations in your local area say it's okay to get out there and fly. And if that, I've had some debates with people about where you tend to focus on the emergency aviation and the transportation I talked about earlier. But then we had the little thought experiment about what about the man or woman that owns a PITS and just goes to their airport, takes it out on their own, never comes near another stall, goes out and just tumbles in the sky for a little bit to bring some joy, just not just to their lives, but to all the kids that see that while they are around so many stressed parents and are locked from being able to go to school and things like that. And I think even the simple act of being able to fly, if you can do it safely, brings a little joy to everyone. And so that's why we created the program. And one of the things I'd like to share with you right now is the first person that had sent us some information. So what we've asked is for people, if they can fly safely, to do it, to help support these businesses, and then to write us their stories. And as time goes on, we are going to look at those stories. We're going to find some that stand out, and we are going to extend our thanks to those individuals with some prizes that are starting to come in from our sponsors and our partners. And they have really lined up behind us, and we have things like as wonderful as headsets from Bose and Lightspeed and other things like really pulse oximeters from Massimo and tools for your aircraft and supplies from Tempest. Really cool things that we just want to share with you. And so I'd like to just celebrate the first person that sent us anything last week, Joseph. I'm sure I'm gonna butcher his last name. Joseph Duraso flew to Minden Airport for lunch and was able, within safe social distancing practices, to have a great burger, a chili cheeseburger there, and just some pictures. And so I'd like to say thank you to Joseph, and I'd like to encourage any of you who have the opportunity to do that as well. Let's keep flying. Let's keep supporting businesses as long as it's safe, and keep this in our lives so that when the crisis is over, and it will be over, we do our best to keep those people who help support us going during that time. And the same thing goes if you are considering upgrading your aircraft or doing something to it. Like, book it now, buy the avionics you're thinking about, buy the headset, especially since you won't have to share one, and it's not safe to anyway at this point. Anything that you're considering doing anyway, please keep doing, and let's support the industry so they're there for us. And I hope and pray that I get to see all of you at Oshkosh, and if not, it'll be the next big event after that. So with that, I'd like to switch to the next subject, and that is how to clean and disinfect your aircraft. Now, I have known our next guest, Mark Rubin, for some time, and he and his team did an amazing job of detailing our airplane. And here's Mark with us. How are you doing, Mark? Hold on, let me unmute you. Or we're unmuting each other. Let me try again. You are self-muted. Okay. And so Mark and I go back to when he worked on my aircraft, and he and his team came up and did and did an amazing job over a period of a few days that was really, really, really impressive, doing both a complete detailing of my plane, and then in addition to that, a ceramic coating. And we can also talk about that as well. So before we go into this, I would like to address one quick thing, and that is you can ask your questions anytime you want. There's a Q&A feature within our tool here in our webinar. And during the broadcast, feel free, ask questions, do whatever you want, and we'll do whatever we can to provide answers during the presentation. And if we can, we can get those at the end if we don't make it during the presentation itself. So with that, it looks like your mic is on now. Welcome, Mark. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very, very welcome. So this is your team here on the screen.
That's part of them. A
Part
small
of,
part.
a small part of them probably.
Yes.
We'd like to talk about where you are, and we'll step through some of these slides, and then we'll get to the next part for everyone. We've got a really exciting first and then second half of tonight's presentation.
Sure. So, would you like me to introduce myself?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I own a company called New England Aircraft Detailing, and we clean all size aircraft from small Cessna 150s all the way up to the clients that have 757s. And we do interior cleanings, we do exterior cleaning, we do bright wood polish, we do the ice boot refurbishment, we do paint correction, we install different products to protect the paint, whether it's ceramics or polymers. But I think today we're going to discuss disinfecting your aircraft, which definitely coincides with times right now.
So obviously, you know, that's the key term going on right now. I mean, people, especially like if we think if our airplane is just sitting in a hangar right now and it's not getting used, then that's one thing. Maybe we don't have to worry about that too much. But even as we start to come out of this crisis, I'm sure it's going to be a gradual curve where there are concerns about how to keep an aircraft clean, how to do things that keep it disinfected as you have passengers in or out, or if anyone in the audience winds up doing transportation of products or people in any way to help the crisis. Let's talk a little bit about that. And also, you threw a slide in here that was an eye-opener about what happens when people aren't flying their aircraft.
Yes, depending on the climates, depending where you are, some people that don't fly for long periods of time, they can develop mold, like you see in this picture here in their aircraft. And just slowly but surely, it just keeps on growing and growing and growing. You know, maybe they left something behind, they ate something in the aircraft, or left something behind that just started the ball rolling there. But mold is a problem in aircraft. Actually, we saw a bunch of it last year when there were some break-ins in some airports and they stole avionics and the doors were left open. It rained, and by the time whoever came back to the airplane, they came back to the airplanes, there was a mold in there, or it was mildewy, it was wet. So these things happen.
That's horrible. You know, we had that same problem actually at our local airport. There's been a whole slew of avionics thefts going on, and I guess that's a good point. You don't really think about that. One of the downsides to a break-in of any kind is that an aircraft can be left open and not cared for, and you may not find out about that break-in for some time, but someone's now opened up your aircraft to the elements.
Correct.
So let's talk about this, the March 6th information you put up.
So on March 16th, FAA, CDC, they came out with advisories, basically recommendations of how to take care of your aircraft at this time, especially the charter aircraft. They do give some guidance here. Afterwards, we can have these downloaded, these sheets, but they also look back to the aircraft manufacturer also to see what products are compatible with their aircraft, or what products do they approve as approved products for to use in the aircraft. I guess in order to keep warranties going and not to avoid the warranties. And we'll go into this in some future slides.
It's OEM stuff. For some reason, the colors got messed up on this, so I'll actually bang past that. Let's talk about the chemicals actually that you end up using.
So the chemicals that I'm going to talk to you about are chemicals I'm using, and are chemicals that different manufacturers recommend to use. I believe they're all good to use. All the products I'm showing you, I do use. Haven't had any issues with discoloration of carpets or seats or any other kind of materials, which you have to be careful when using new products in your aircraft, especially on leather, carpet. You want to test it somewhere conspicuous to make sure that it's not going to stain or discolor what you have going on there already, which can happen. All these products that I'm showing you are all approved by one of the top, 5 big manufacturers. So ZipCam Cama is a very popular product out there. All these products right now are hard to get, just to let you know, and some of them are carried by the regular companies who buy aviation products from right now, whether it would be Aircraft Spruce or any one of those companies out there online, Sporties.
So ZipCam in particular, is that like you said, you can get that at Spruce?
ZipCam, I forget which one you can get at, but I think maybe AVL has it. I think AVL carries the ZipCam.
Okay, so for everybody, it's AVL, AVIALL.
Right. So this is a great general purpose disinfectant cleaner. It has very little to no smell, which is perfect because the last thing you want to do is throw a chemical in a small place, clean the airplane, walk away, lock the doors, and keep that strong, pungent smell in the aircraft, and pilots won't like it. So it's a really nice neutral scent to it.
Okay, and as you mentioned, there's no danger to plastics inside the aircraft. You don't have to worry about the glass or anything like that.
No, not at all. No. And I've been using it for 2 to 3 years already.
Okay. Bacoban.
Yeah, Bacoban is a new product for aviation, the aviation world in the U.S. Bacoban is used in the U.K. It's used all over the world besides the U.S. and it's used to disinfect at hospitals in the U.K. It's a great product. We just got it in today. It's a disinfectant and also protectant, and what it does is it has technology in there which when you apply it, it's gel-like. You won't feel it on the surface as gel-like, but it's a gel-like material that inhibits growth or of a whole bunch of bacteria, viruses for 10 days. So
that's
this
interesting.
is a,
I mean, 10 days of release that seems pretty important.
yes. Yeah, it's the only one out there that gives you 10 days. I've found that's an approved product.
Can you explain a little bit about the concept of fogging or atomizing?
Sure. So when you fog or atomize, then you're getting the particles in the places that you would normally not get into, behind seats in tight areas and crevices where you'd never get into. So when you fog or atomize, you're making those particles into smaller particles, and they're almost like a vapor through the air, and it's settling all over, and you're covering all surfaces.
So is that in itself, that seems, I mean, it seems the concept seems like kind of putting off like a bomb they used to do, or they still do probably for like, insects or something like that in a house. Like
Correct.
You can actually do that inside of an aircraft. You can actually basically bomb the aircraft and get it all taken care of. Does that replace having to wipe all the surfaces or having to do every dial and knob? And it seems like the aviation cockpit is just, there's just so many things to touch.
Yep.
That
So
how do you even find, you even when you think you've switched everything, then you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. I pull circuit breakers too in an emergency.
So what we do is we actually, before we do disinfection, we do a full cleaning of the entire aircraft. We wipe down all the surfaces with a disinfectant. We're vacuuming all in the carpets. We're cleaning the seats. And then at the very end, we come in here, we come inside the aircraft, and then we fog it with the fogger. And then after that, after 10 minutes, and then we wipe it all down, because it is a gel-like substance. It can be clumpier in some areas versus not other areas. So we wipe the whole aircraft down afterwards.
So you do both. You put so you do the zip chem, and then you also do the Bacoban?
Yeah, so right now I use ZipChem, or I'm using ZEP RTU, which you'll see soon. Which
Okay.
it depends what we have in stock. Right now, it's hard to get product. Yeah, these are just different approvals for the Bacoban. ZEP RTU disinfectant is also, they do have studies that it does cover the coronavirus. So I'm using this product as well. So yeah, I'm coming in the plane, cleaning the whole plane, disinfecting with this product, and then at the end, we're taking the tobacco ban and we're fogging and cleaning, wiping the whole airplane. So it's almost like getting two disinfectants. Because if you really think about it, when you disinfect your house, your car, your airplane with a disinfectant, whatever you're using to kill whatever it is, you killed whatever was there, but now if you introduce something, it's gonna be there again.
Right.
Then you'll have to disinfect again. Whereas the tobacco ban now gives that 10-day protection, which is nice.
Yeah, that seems really important. You know, I kind of want to put that in my car. Have you ever thought about that? Do you use that in cars as well?
I have not used the cars yet. We just got the tobacco ban in today, but I will be spraying a lot of things with tobacco ban.
So, all right. So obviously, number one question, where do you get it? So where do you get both? We already talked about where you can get the zip cam. Where do you get the tobacco ban and then also the Zep Aviation?
Zep Aviation, I get directly from Zep. It may be available on Amazon. I haven't checked. And the tobacco ban has come through to a distributor who sells to aircraft detailers. I got to find out where else it can be purchased from for the general public.
Okay. And we'll provide your contact information at the end, because the other thing, of course, is that people have other questions. They want to figure out how to get these things, or they maybe just want you to come out and do their plane. Then you'll, I guess, take care of that. I mean, obviously, you're working on all size aircraft, and some of them are very large aircraft where you put a team inside. For the rest of us with 2, 4, and 6 seat aircraft, I think this is extremely helpful in how, like I said, maybe if you're doing anything right now to help people where you're going to have anyone else in your aircraft, it matters. But again, as we start to come out of the crisis, I think it's going to be pretty important when it's okay to take people with you, but you have to be really careful. Especially what you had said about the tobacco ban. I think that seems like something that'd be really good for general aviation aircraft.
I agree. Yep, definitely.
So next one, Sanicide, which is that's a pretty rough sounding product.
Is. Another product that we use also. It can be used, instead of the Zep or the first product that we mentioned. Also, it's another product. This product you can get online. I can't remember who I bought it from the last, but I could let everyone know afterwards if it dropped me an email. I do apologize.
Oh, no worries at all. That's good to know. So you've got a process mapped out here.
Yeah, I put on paper a process that we go through, which I mentioned before. So prior to disinfection, we ensure all surfaces are free of trash and debris. We spray it directly on the surface. If you don't have a fogger, you could spray it in the bottle also.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get on the product. I'll get everywhere. Where
does someone get a fogger? What does a fogger even look like?
A fogger is some of them look like a plastic gun, like a toy gun. Those are small ones. Those are hard to get right now. I'm trying to get my hands on a few of those. It's just almost impossible. Not almost, it's impossible. The only foggers that I can find right now are in Home Depot. Ryobi makes a cordless one. So that's a great place to get it. But truthfully, for most people, for the smaller aircraft, the spray bottle will be fine. There's not that many places like a jet where you have all these places where you're not going to get into. Part you can reach all areas of aircraft and wipe it down in a 2, a 4, or 6 seater. So I don't think that a fogger would be necessary for a small plane.
Okay. But if someone wanted one for other reasons or for their minivan, I guess you get a Ryobi one at Home Depot. Who would have thought? Got to go in there, pick up a chainsaw and a fogger to sanitize your car or your plane. Items in the cockpit.
Items that that you shouldn't forget. So when my crews go out there, they have checklists. They want to make sure you get all the spots that people are touching, from the yokes to control panels, the screens. I actually saw there's actually a company that has a product that they claim. I'm waiting for paperwork on it, so I didn't bring it up yet. But they sell like a film where you put over your any of your touch screens, and for X amount of time, and I think they claim like 90 days, nothing can grow on it. And
no viruses can be on it.
Yeah, no
That's
viruses.
fascinating.
They're using it in the automotive market right now, but I'm still waiting on paperwork to see, where they get this information from before I introduce it to anyone.
Yeah, I think we need it on every point of sale touchscreen in every store.
Yes, on your phone. Put on your
Yeah,
phone.
of course. And of course, you mentioned one of the most important things, and we talked about it earlier, headsets. If there's one thing that's likely to change out of this crisis moving forward that has to do with aviation products, I would imagine headset sharing is going to go the way of the dinosaur.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that microphone is the closest thing to your mouth. It's within less than a half an inch from your mouth. You're breathing on it the whole time.
Trust me, I've flown with a lot of people that are eating it. So yeah.
So yeah, the headsets. I mean, every part of it. From from the speakers to the microphone, definitely.
Yep. And of course, we're not all, maybe some of us on the call, but most of us are not wealthy enough to have a galley. But certainly baggage areas, those are pretty important that you might not think of, and things like that, and everything else that goes in it. So a few do's and don'ts to wrap things up here.
Yep. Protect the aircraft, protect yourself, protect your loved ones. Take your time. Clean the interior aircraft. I would say regularly. Definitely at least monthly. Just get in there. It's not a big surface area. Clean it out, because you're in there, you're breathing there. If you're there with somebody else, it's a small area, and just over time, things do grow if you don't take care of it. So vacuum it, clean it out, disinfect it. Maybe get the tobacco ban, and just keep it nice and safe in there.
And the do nots.
Yep, don't use household products. A lot of them will hurt your leathers. It'll hurt your plexiglass. So I would say use aviation approved products. They're safe. And if you're going to use something that you haven't used before and it's aviation product, try it in an inconspicuous area so you don't ruin any of your interior. You just never know. You never know.
Right. So you had a gift for everybody.
Yep, I wrote this book, Do's and Don'ts, how not to clean your aircraft. If whoever wants, send me an email, and also any questions you have, from this webinar, or any other questions you have out of the blue about detailing, I'll be happy to answer you, and I answer pretty quick, and then I'll send you a copy of my book.
Yeah, so thank you so much. I mean, again, Mark has worked on our aircraft. It just is spectacular. The results are fantastic. There will be a recording, of course, of SocialFlight Live from tonight, and every week we'll go on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, search for the one word, SocialFlight as one word, and it'll come up, and then you'll be able to see this if you didn't get a chance to write down the products, or if you didn't get a chance to see his email address to reach out to him or get more stuff. I mean, really, really appreciate you coming on. We did have one question. So when we talk about just I guess the fun part of your services, which is the detailing work, can you give us any guidelines of some people that ask questions having to do with cost, like typical 4-seat Cessna or something like that in your area? This is, and again, I can't emphasize, this is like soup to nuts. You get a plane back that you can't believe is still yours. But what does that cost?
So a full interior 4-seater with a carpet extraction, and are we talking about with?
Well, give us an idea about detailing on like the outside or on the inside, or just any information that can help people understand where this fits in their financial spectrum of being able to get your services.
Sure. So let's just say a 4-seater interior exterior with waxed, disinfection, cleaning the carpets and everything, you're looking around $900.
Okay. So that's actually pretty reasonable considering, again, that I've seen before and after aircraft you've done, and it almost staves off a paint job to some degree.
Yep, and that's debugging, degreasing, taking care of the gear, the whole aircraft.
And I know one of your guys must have spent a few hours just in my gear wells.
Yeah.
And what about the ceramic? Because that's the other thing we had done was a ceramic coating. And I will say to everyone, I knew nothing about ceramic before we did it on the SocialFlight's Bonanza. And what's been amazing is it's been years, I think now, but every single time that I want to wipe bugs off the leading edge now, and I get a lot of them, literally a wet rag, and they just come right off with one wipe. And that, I think, is a ceramic.
Correct. Yeah, the ceramic's a great protectant. It doesn't allow the grease and the belly to get into the paint. If you had some of the turbines, the TBMs, where they have all that exhaust soot that comes off both sides, and it won't stain the paint. And like you said, if you have bugs, they're not going to penetrate the paint. They're going to be right on top of that ceramic. You just wipe them right off.
And what's a ceramic treatment? And you said that lasts for something like 5 years, right?
It's the manufacturer gives a 5-year guarantee on it. And it also depends, where's your plane? Is it tied down? Is it a hanger? How much do you fly it? But we have ceramics out there for 4 years that keep on going.
And how much does that cost?
So ceramic on a 4-seater, you're looking at around $3,600. It's a very big, large job. You're talking about 4 people on the plane for at least 2 days plus maybe another half a day. There's a lot of work going into, besides cleaning the aircraft, to compound and get all the imperfections out, get all the oxidation out of the plane. And then after that, then we bring it up with a polish to get it to a nice shine. And then after that, then we seal it in with a ceramic or a polymer type substance, which we use as well.
Wow. And so that's the whole job, though, that you're talking about, so that's with ceramic, that's the full job then.
Whole thing, the full plane, inside, outside with ceramic, everything, yes.
Excellent. Well, again, Mark, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. The contact information is up here. Again, there'll be the recording. So thank you so much for joining us on SocialFlight Live.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Good to see you guys.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we'd like to move to the next part of our presentation tonight. And it's another really fun one, and that is to talk about flight simulators. Now, I am not going to pretend to be an absolute expert in flight simulators, but what I can tell you is that we have a pretty cool one here, and we have developed that over time without, and I cannot emphasize this enough, without being super experts in how to make all this stuff work together. What we've actually done, and I'll bring the boys online right now just for get their web camera started. But what we've actually done is created this flight sim environment where it is as close for us to flying our own plane as possible. And this is something that we did way before we got to the point, of course, that we are now, where it's more difficult to actually be able to get out there and fly. And so what I wanted to do is share our experience and what we've learned about what makes sense to invest in and what maybe doesn't matter as much to invest in for you, to help you find a good flight simulator on a budget and invest in the things that really make a difference. So one of the things that we're going to go through the equipment, we're going to do a demo of it and more, and again, take lots of questions from you and lots of interaction. And so as you can see in this picture and also in the live feed there, this is our simulator. Now, what is that made up of before we get into the demo side of it? Well, first of all, you start with a desktop PC. They can run on laptops, but really a desktop PC is going to be your best bet. And it isn't super important how powerful that desktop PC is. It's also not super important about like what the graphics capabilities are of that. And what really does matter though is that you can go and get a card for it that will give it that graphics capability. And those cards are fairly inexpensive. You can even find them used, but our particular setup, what I'll go through here, I'll explain how we did ours and what we did. When we bought ours, we needed this workstation to do multiple things. We produce a lot of videos here at SocialFlight. It's a lot of what we do. And so therefore, we wanted this not just to be a flight sim station, but also to be able to do some video production. And when you do video production, you do need more power, and the screen becomes incredibly important, because having a really wide screen allows you to stretch the video out during editing and see a long timeline. Well, that doesn't matter for today, but what it does is explain one of the reasons as to why we have such a wide display there, which you can also do more than one. So what we did is when we went and bought this unit, and this one was back just on Best Buy. It was just an HP Omen with a fairly straightforward graphics card, nothing super powerful. The whole PC was less than $1,300. And then we got an open box monitor return, which are still available last I checked, on this crazy super wide monitor. And that really worked out very well for us. So desktop PC graphics card. The monitor itself is actually not that important. And here's the reason why. It's the next item. So instead of thinking about having this really wide view that you're going to see on ours, what actually makes the difference is this very cool device that's available for $170, and you can sometimes find them used for less, called a Track IR. Now you see a little device that has a little green light on it above the monitor. That's not a webcam. That device is tracking to the headset that Jake is wearing in front of the screen. Now I'm going to unmute them now so that we can have them on as well. Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yep, okay.
Excellent, thanks. So the Track IR, and that's Jake on the left, all set up there, just to introduce them, my two boys, and Ben on the right. Now, what the Track IR does is when Jake turns his head even slightly, it pans around. That makes it possible to have even a small screen and really add to the realism. And he can even look up and down, which is really important. So if you're going to invest in something, this is one of the top ones on the list, but there's going to be a couple others that are also really important. The next thing that's important is having a good yoke, something that feels right. Now, feels heavy, is stable, and most importantly, doesn't have like a dead spot in the middle. It's very smooth through your motions and realistic to what you're used to experiencing in the cockpit. And so that, what we found was a very small company called Diagma, and there you can just search for them online, and Diagma makes exceptionally good yokes at reasonable prices. Now, we chose to go with a full panel setup from them, as you can see there, that has everything, has keys and master switch and flaps and gear and throttle, everything's all there. That, you know, that it wasn't cheap, but it was still, I believe, less than $1,000, but it certainly added a chunk of money. So you can be anywhere you want on the spectrum of how much you want to invest in a flight simulator. But at very least, I would consider getting a high quality yoke to start with. And there are many manufacturers. I just happen to like this one. You will find right now that the market, I think you might find a roll of toilet paper before you're able to get your hands on a good yoke, because everyone's buying things right now to work on inside. But add it to your list and consider it for moving forward. So that's that. The next one, which is not that important in my opinion, unless you are a power IFR user that wants to do a lot of practice and be really close to what you do in your own aircraft, is a GPS simulator. You can see that at the bottom of the screen that I'm sharing. You can also see that in the picture. It's right in between the two boys there. And what that is it's a separate monitor that shows, right now they can only support the old Garmin 530s and 430s. But all the buttons work. And so it sets you up in a situation where you can actually go and put hands on the knobs, navigate in order to do things like that. So that's a great tool, but not essential, really not. Where you get to the essential stuff is the next two items. You need software, of course, for a flight simulator. We happen to use X-Plane 11. It's only $60, works really, really well. You can get patches, you can get special aircraft, you can do all sorts of things to add to it with software that people have made for your local airport or for special airports or for, again, your aircraft. And so we went out and found a Bonanza that was a lot like ours and spent, I think, maybe $20 or something like that to go and get the right one. And then comes the last one, the pièce de résistance of what makes all of this so real. And that is Pilot Edge Live ATC. It is, you can do it for $20 a month or $180 a year. And Pilot Edge is a network that you hook up to that allows you to tap into real, what is real in the simulated world, live air traffic control. These are either retired or currently active air traffic controllers that work for Pilot Edge, that are contractors for them, that actually run air traffic control just like it is in the real world. And it's an amazing, amazing thing. And they have two options. They have a wide area option where when you buy, you can either buy one zone, you choose your zone. And so they have a wide area option, which gives you more airports, and then they have a closer option, which is specifically for the LA basin, the Los Angeles area, which gives you much, much more realism and services within that local area. And so the last item on the list, it actually connects to FlyQ, and it'll connect, I believe, to other software as well, but we happen to use FlyQ. And so very cool things. There's Jake using it on his phone. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop my cam. I'm going to go over there, and we're going to get these guys giving you a demo to see what it's like flying our simulator, and then certainly take any questions that you have. We're going to start in the Bonanza part, but Jake is just a couple hours of practice from getting his license, but of course, there's no flight training right now. So he's going to switch over to the Cessna that he uses, and we can talk about things like radio work, etc. All right, let's switch over to you guys. Welcome, Jake and Ben.
All set. Yep. So one of the greatest things about having a flight simulator, especially during the time that I'm at, so because of the coronavirus, I can't finish my pilot's license right now, just because our flight school is closed. And even being that close, I still want to stay proficient. So when the flight school's back open, I can just go get some more hours and then take my check ride. And one of the coolest things about this flight simulator is I'm able to plan the flights that I would do in my check ride, run all the checklists and everything, like my flows, everything right through the flight simulator, as well as talk to ATC to keep my communication proficient. And it's been a pivotal point in my ability just to stay proficient and stay close to getting my license.
Excellent. Well, let's go for a flight.
Yep.
And let's hear Pilot ATC.
So let's bring Pilot Edge up. Let's make sure it's going. Yep. Okay, so one of the things we already touched on before is the ability to look around using our the track ID or track IR, and yeah, so it's really, really great. Especially, I'll show you in the Cessna, just the plane that I'm.
The 235 Alpha Zulu, runway 29 clear to land.
And so one of the great things that Pilot Edge actually began to switch into is so you can actually hear other pilots on other frequencies. So because there's not that many pilots flying on Pilot Edge, you're able to still feel that same sense of urgency, that same sense of just high stress. That's the yeah.
Kilo 169 Bravo Kilo Los Angeles clearance. Clear to General Airport, Seal Beach.
Do you want to talk about the
Seal Beach, direct. Climb via 6 at maintain 5,000. Departure frequency 125.2.
Yeah.
Squawk 4142.
Soon as the controller stops talking. So yeah, one of the things that I really like about it is we did everything possible to mimic our aircraft, because of course, you know, the more technically advanced aircraft that you have, the more important it is that you're practicing with some of those things. And I love the fact, I mean, first of all, I'm a huge fan of the Aspen PFD, and so flying behind the Evolution, this allows me to do that, and this allows me to stay proficient with using it, because obviously I happen to be using it for a bunch of like IFR work, and so it's nice that allows me to control that and have that as part of the realism in what I do. Now why don't we switch over to the plane that you're used to flying?
Sure. Just do the red one. No, don't do that one. Let's just do this. Okay. There.
Number 13 November, short of 15, contact ground 123.9er. 139.
Okay, so let's get the ATIS right now. And the great part about this is the ATIS is actually recorded by the contracted ATC guys.
So they're really updating ATIS hourly, just like regular ATC.
Oxnard Airport, ATIS information Bravo, 23510, wind 230 at 5, visibility 10, sky condition clear, temperature 18, dew point 9er, altimeter 299 arriving and departing runway 25, visual budget in use. Read back all runway assignments and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact that you have information Bravo.
Okay. So we have Bravo.
November 58 Zulu, right Charlie, Alpha to parking, remain as frequency. Good day.
Oxnard ground, Cessna 898 Julia Bravo radio check.
Cessna 898 Julia Bravo, Oxnard ground, visual loud and clear.
Number 898 Julia Bravo is at the GA hangars at Oxnard, ready for departure to the north with Bravo.
Number 898 Julia Bravo, runway 25, via taxi via Foxtrot Alpha.
Taxi to 25 via Foxtrot Alpha, 898 Julia Bravo.
Number 5 Alpha, so with the end readback, you can taxi via Alpha, remain this frequency. Have a wonderful day.
So isn't it cool? Like real controllers, real world. It just is amazing to me what you can actually do. And maybe for everybody here, we can go up and just stay.
313 November, Burbank ground, cross runway 15.
Questions? I'll be right back. Okay. You guys keep going on with the demo.
Right on Alpha, hold short, 813.
So with the X-Plane system and this whole setup, you can practice not only just flying, but procedures, emergency procedures, checklists, just anything more practical that you need other besides just the flying skills, which is really cool. You can get it in like real world conditions.
Maintain VFR at 2,500. Departure frequency 134.9er, squawk 6242. Depart at 250 crosswind
Tower.
shoreline. VFR at 2,500. 134.9, squawk 6242. Cessna 42 Alpha, read back correct. Charlie Tower down in 350 Juliet Tango, hope to the 30 kilo right. November 313 November, cross runway 8, taxi to the terminal. Cross runway 2 terminal. Number 323 Juliet Tango, John Lee Tower, runway 20 right at Kilo, close to takeoff. 323 Juliet Tango, 20 right at Kilo, close to takeoff.
Oxnard Tower, Cessna 898 Juliet Bravo, holding short 25 at Alpha, ready for close traffic departure.
Cessna 898 Juliet Bravo, Oxnard down, so you said close traffic or a departure from the airspace? What was your option?
We're gonna stay in pattern and then do a full stop at 25.
Number 898 Juliet Bravo, left close traffic approved, report midfield, runway 25, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 25, report midfield, 898 Juliet Bravo. So you can really see just how real this experience is.
So we've got some questions coming in, guys, that I'd like to field. I'll do that. Don't be distracted flying. Ben, I'll ask these questions to you as we get going, if you can keep focused on flying. So the first is, no, we did not. So we got asked, did we go through the effort to get our simulator certified for approaches? And the answer is no. This is something we use for our own personal currency, not for actually qualifying for it. But it does keep the skills up and keep us really doing well on our and polished. And I think, as Jake had said, it's really done some wonderful things for radio operations, especially. And again, you can see it actually has a Bonanza yoke in this one, which leads us to the next question, which is for people who have an aircraft with a stick, what kind of simulators exist? I haven't seen it personally, but my guess is it exists. Ben, have you ever seen anything? Well, I guess they have joystick controls, which are more common for like fighter planes or something like that. Ben, have you seen anything like that?
Have you seen anything like the yoke stick thing? Can you just repeat the question real quick?
Like a stick. Have you ever seen anyone with a stick instead of a yoke, or would you basically recommend those people use the joystick, like the fighter style? If someone has like a Citabria, something with a stick.
Yeah, so it depends what you use when you fly. If you fly a stick, obviously using a stick would be much better and just really mimic what you're actually using. But if you do use a yoke, get a good yoke. Get something like really put some money into it and get something that drives really well and feels really good and really realistic.
And so they have more like fighter style grip controls that you can do, and they're actually a lot less expensive. But if you fly with a stick, I think that's something that can really help. That's what I would do, is I'd switch over and use one of those. And like I said, those are even less expensive than the yokes to get a quality one. The other question we got is our GPS simulator. That's also made by Diagma, the EAA, which we showed earlier. And believe it or not, the same company makes G1000 simulators. So there's a few ways you can do that. You can actually get the simulator software for G1000, which are quite good. And those are all available online through X-Plane and through people who make patches and other software for X-Plane. And then I'll actually see if I can show
Cessna 898 Juliet Bravo midfield.
That, for instance, that one.
You want the option? Where's that you go?
We're just going to do a full stop.
Oh, short and sweet. I like it. Number 125, go to land.
Go to land, number 25, 898 Juliet Bravo. Thank you. That is so nice.
So Jake's been cleared to land now. What I was just going to show is, there's any number of different ways that people can mimic high-end avionics, and certainly you can go all the way for a G1000. And so I'm going to show my screen here.
TBM 4545 Foxtrot Riverside Town.
And this is that other company, Diagma, and they make a whole G1000s as well, just so that you can see. Not cheap, but pretty impressive. What you can do.
Okay, so you're with March. That's March Tower. And TBN 4545 Foxtrot March Tower, make straight in runway 32 and runway 32 clear line. Runway 42 clear line. Appreciate straight out. Plenty of times on the East Coast boy. Riverside is Romeo Alpha Lima, and Romeo India Victor is actually March. Oh, wow, that's 4545 Foxtrot. Foxtrot radio check. Radio check the Foxtrot, radio loud and clear.
Okay, so now we're coming into the last part of this. Okay, someone just said that that it was hard for them to see the screen. So I don't know if there's an easy way. There might be on your controls for the webinar to actually see the larger for them.
5402 to Whiteman. Jerry, 5020 on the request.
Okay, we'll let Jake clear the runway here. And then he'll turn off pilot edge.
Yep. Okay, so we'll just quit pilot edge right now. Okay, so now we're disconnected. And so with pilot edge using X-Plane, you have the ability to take off, put yourself in a situation, turn on pilot edge, and pick up flight following or do other things to make it more realistic as well.
Excellent. And so I understand, obviously, a lot of things we're talking at the same time. So just a quick review for everybody when we go back on as to who makes the different things. So for us, Diagma made that control. It appears they're out of stock of just about everything right now, but they made that yoke, and they also make that GPS simulator that's next to it. They make ones for G1000s. They make all sorts of other stuff. Again, I'll share my screen here to show what the different products are that everybody used here. And again, Track IR, biggest one that I would recommend, in addition to, of course, using X-Plane and Pilot Edge. If I was just to say what are the most important things in order, what would you guys say if you were to prioritize everything that you've spent time on? I think they may be muted again. So I think that the bottom line is your PC has to be able to handle it, but it really doesn't take much. I think that having Track IR takes a small screen and turns it into a big one. And then you just make sure that you have Pilot Edge, which allows you to really feel like you're flying in the real world. So there's a lot there. It was not that hard for us to configure it and get it going. Sometimes you need support from the companies if you can't connect, or there's some issues in getting your audio. I think that became an issue at some point, like what audio, what mic was being used, what speaker was being used, and making sure that it all connects. And one of the things that we didn't spend too much time on there is that it all connects all the way to the iPad or iPhone running FlyQ in our case. And that is so, so cool to have that track with you through the whole thing and be able to use it just like you use your iPad or other device while you're flying. And so I think it's really, really good stuff. And I thank Jake and Ben for joining us and doing that great demo. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, it was fun.
And so a teaser for next time. We've got a couple really cool things coming for our next time. And again, same time, same place, Tuesday, 8 p.m. here for Social Flight Live. And we're going to do a couple cool things. We are going to have a guest, Jolie Lucas, which she is absolutely prolific individual who is a psychotherapist that serves the community of pilots. She's a Mooney driver. She's a dynamic individual and a great pilot in her own right, has some wonderful stories of the things that she's been through. And we're going to do an update of this thing right behind me that you see that tail sticking out there. That's our T-51D Mustang project here being built in our living room here at Social Flight, which of course is basically a workshop now. And we're going to spend some time showing you some more about what's going on in our build, talk to you a little bit more about that, take your questions as always. And if you are already on the invite, you will get notified anyway. You're already subscribed. If you subscribe to this webinar, you are subscribed to all of the upcoming ones, which includes next Tuesday at 8 p.m. You can always check it out at socialflight.com also, and you can see the recording at YouTube at SocialFlight, one word. And so until next time, please just get the free app, download it for Social Flight, stay part of our community. We're here for you, you're here for us. It makes such a difference for us during these times to support General Aviation, and I cannot tell you enough how much I appreciate you taking the time this evening, and the notes that I get and all the other support for everything that we all do together. If there is something we can do to help you and your community, reach out and let us know. We'll do everything in our power to make that happen. Until next time, I'm Jeff Simon from Social Flight. That's Jake and Ben. Blue skies.